Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. Welcome to MFSN, the Hub's fantasy football strategy show, Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. I'm Dr. Dan Ratner, and I'm here today just with Ross the Boss.
Hey, everybody. Ross the Boss coming live from California. And we have a lot of great fantasy football to talk about. Injuries, who you should start, who you should bench, what you should do for week 3 to make your team a winner.
And how do we even interpret each week? It happens every week. You're like, wow, what do I do? I mean, we both were not high on Alvin Kamara. You especially were not. But, I mean, what do you make of this week? I mean, obviously, 4 touchdowns, 180 total yards. I mean, is this for real? Obviously, it's at least partially for real.
The Saints are 2-0. I mean,
yeah.
And there's 68% chance to make the playoffs already. I mean, they've scored 40 points in 2 games. I mean, each game over 40 points.
It's crazy. I don't understand how is this the same team as last year? Obviously, it's not exactly the same team, but like, what changed so much? Here's another big headline, which you're obviously eating some crow on the Alvin Kamara thing. Well, Marvin Harrison Jr. He only caught 4 balls, but they were for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Oh, he had 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. I mean, I was just waiting for this kid to explode. I mean, he's that good. And the funny thing was, in week 1, they asked Murray, the quarterback for the Cardinals, they said, "Are you going to give him the ball?" He says, "Well, that's not my job."
Not my job. And then he immediately did.
Well, it is his job. I mean,
it's not only his job, but he went out and did it right away.
I mean, whose job is it? So Harrison Jr., I'm sure the owners are relieved on their second round pick. I'm sure most people took him in the second, maybe third round. Yeah. But he's a big commodity. Time to trade him? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, he's up here right now. So if you can get like a Chase, a Jefferson, or somebody in that stature for him, I probably would pull the trigger. But that's me.
I don't see why you wouldn't, because you're taking out the risk. That's part of the strategy, right? Yeah. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. is a great player. He could outperform those players, but it's not super likely, I wouldn't say. I mean, if you can get the sure thing, I think you go for the sure thing. So speaking of that, Justin Jefferson, he had a very similar stat line to Marvin Harrison Jr., though he only scored once. Right. But 4 catches, 133 yards, and a touchdown. I saw the long touchdown. And what was it, 99 yards? I mean,
it was huge. I mean, he definitely, him and Sam Darnold definitely have a connection. I was worried about that with Sam Darnold being his quarterback, but you know what? He hasn't missed a step. I mean, he's playing great. And Darnold, if he's playing a weak team, it's not a bad start either. I mean, I would feel fine starting him against like the Carolinas of the world or the teams that don't have a great defense, Tennessee's, people like that, because it's definitely a good start.
Yeah, so wasn't it Bill Parcells that said the best quality is availability?
There you go.
Darnold is doing just fine. He's on the field, and Justin Jefferson. I mean, this is the question I have for you, Ross. He caught a 99-yard touchdown essentially, so he's got 133 yards total. How much do you trust these stats? Actually, I know it's a funny thing to say about Justin Jefferson. Then we're gonna get to questions. I see your questions, E. Smitty. We'll be with you in a sec.
Well, I mean, you can trust it. I mean. The reality is he hit over 130 yards receiving. I don't care if he got it in 1 play or 10 plays. Doesn't matter.
Let me make this point. I mean, he is the guy who made the 99-yard play. It's not like he isn't, right?
Right. I mean, Jefferson to me is, top tier, top 5 receiver. When the season's all done, he'll be a top 5 guy. I mean, in points. So if you can get him, if somebody's down on him, which I'm sure nobody is after this week, but maybe later in the week, see if he has some bad weeks. You never know. So, you got to keep an eye on that stuff. I mean, right now, Jamar Chase is a good person to try to get. I mean,
right. We're gonna talk about some buy low candidates, some sell high candidates. Yeah. All right, let's get some questions here. Z. Smitty says, which quarterback should I start this week? Jordan Love might not play. I'm surprised he's actually even in consideration.
But he practiced. I mean, but who knows if he can move around? But
I think that's a long shot for him to play. But who knows? Goff, Geno, Carr, Watson, Caleb, or Rodgers. How many quarterbacks do you have? Let's see.
Okay, so Caleb has not thrown a touchdown this year. Did you know that stat? He has not thrown a touchdown. So throw him out.
Yep.
Go back.
He says the problem is I will need to drop Love, which I really don't want to do. Huh?
Well, why do you have to drop him? Why can't you put on? Why can't you keep him and drop another quarterback?
There must be, maybe there's something we don't know about the way. Tell us about how your league works, because if there's some rule that.
I mean, show me who else he has. Let me just give him.
Jordan Love. Okay, so it's Jordan Love, Goff.
Yeah.
Geno, Carr, Watson, Caleb. I mean, with all those quarterbacks, you got to hold on to Love.
I would start probably, if I was him, I would start probably Derek Carr against the Phillies defense this week. Derek Carr is on fire. That offense is scoring a lot of points. I would probably start Carr, and then if you don't like Carr, I would start Goff at Arizona. I think that's a good start too. So,
I see why he's asking this. Okay, got this. He says, I'm not dropping one of my skill players on my team. I only have one QB. So these are QBs on the wire.
Okay, so I'm thinking about it. I think Goff at Arizona is a good start. Arizona's DBs aren't the greatest, and they're missing a lot of their defense right now. So I would start Jared Goff.
Would you consider Aaron Rodgers? I just want to ask that.
Aaron Rodgers hasn't thrown over 200 yards this season. I mean, when he throws like 30, the most attempts he has this season is 30.
It's hard to trust the Jets.
In the New England, I mean, that game's going to be watching like slow molasses dropping down on a wall.
And not only that, right? The Thursday games are always sloppy.
They're bad. They're bad. Ask they're boring games to watch. It's on Prime. It's going to be a bad game. And Rodgers is, it's run first. They're not letting him air it out. It's not the Aaron Rodgers of 300 yards. It's Aaron Rodgers of 180. I mean, he'll be lucky to have 180 and 2 touchdowns. Lucky.
Yep. Okay, so Z Spinney is saying I've been streaming QBs week to week. I mean, if that's the case, and there's a guy like Goff or Aaron Rodgers just floating around on your wire, I think then you can cut Love if he doesn't play. I would just wait to see if he plays.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I would.
You could. I would lean towards.
I would try to hold him as long as I can.
I would try to hold him as long as I would too. Just find one player that you can cut.
I think he'll be back. If he's practicing this week, I think he'll be back next week. How about that?
I agree. And so that makes it hard. I think you take a chance on a roster spot somehow. Listen, you could even not play a defense that week if you need to.
Yeah.
Just defenses sometimes will give you negative 2 points. Like if
you really need to start a defense, but
you want to. But if you're desperate, I would actually rather not.
But then you lose by 3 points because you didn't start a defense. You look like an idiot. But there you go.
Looking like an idiot is not the problem. It's the loss that would be hard. True. Okay, Albert Mariquin says, "Good afternoon. Good to see you, Albert." He says, "Pick 2, full PPR: Metcalf, Ayuk, and Olave." That's a good problem.
I think Metcalf is going to blow up this week. How about that? I love Metcalf.
He blew up last week. I mean, he had 14 targets.
He did
10 catches, 129 yards, and a touchdown.
I love Metcalf. Olave scares me. Ayuk, I feel, is going to have the Niners lost, and they're mad. They're going to be throwing the ball like crazy. They're not going to be handing the ball off and slowing the clock down. They'll be running, passing. They'll be scoring points. Ayuk and Metcalf in my book. What do you think, Dan?
I'm going to say the same thing. Olave is a great talent, and we've been waiting for him to break out. And the Saints look good, so you'd think we'd be saying to start him. But there's a lot of people. Kamara's getting a lot of the yards, and Shaheed is also taking up a lot of space. So Olave has also had a lot of drops. You can't go wrong with these. You're not going to make a bad play. But I would say Metcalf and Ayuk are the ones to go with as well. All right, Z Smitty says also which defense? Packers, Bengals, Steelers, Bears. Let me pull up what the matchups are. Or Ross, do you have that?
I have it. Steelers are at home against the Chargers. I like that matchup because I just think that Steelers are home or just a different defensive team. J.J. Watt's going to be Defensive Player of the Year in my book, but that's me. The Bears I would stay away from. The Bears are at Indy. I think Indy's going to roll them. I think I just have a feeling it's
young team on the road. I would not play.
Yeah, the Bengals, which I like this week, they are playing Monday night against I won't say the R word. They're playing against Commanders, and I like the Bengals in that game. I would start in the Packers. The Packers are at Tennessee, so. Out of all those games, I like the Steelers at home. I just think that for some reason the Steelers just pick it up at home. Their defense, the crowd gets behind them. I just love that matchup against the Chargers, and I think the Chargers are going to be forced to pass the ball, and they're kind of beaten up at the receiver position.
I think people underestimate how big a deal home field advantage actually is.
Well, in Pittsburgh it is. I mean,
it's certainly in some places, but it is everywhere. I mean, the players just play better; they're more comfortable there. And I would go with the Steelers out of those 4 as well. So sorry to provide no conflict here so far.
It's funny you said about the home field. The only place I don't agree with you with the home field is here in Los Angeles. LA's playing the Niners this week on Sunday.
Oh yeah, well, but that's almost like,
and I feel it's going to be more Niner fans.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if you're close, right, like a Browns game where the Steelers are coming, I don't know about that home field advantage because there's going to be a lot of Pittsburgh
Browns fans. They don't sell their season tickets. They go to the games and they'll cheer. Rams fans are
they do, but you'll find your fair share of the visiting team.
Yeah, I know, but the Rams fans are very mild fans. You know, they're not true football fans like they are in the Midwest. And I can say that. I'm from LA, so I said it.
You said it. I won't
quote me on that.
I will quote you on it. I'm not gonna get into that with Rams.
Yeah, you're in Cleveland. You can't say anything.
But I can see it. You know, they're a young fan base in a way. Although they did have the Rams a long time ago.
They left town. They're traitors.
Yep. All right. So Chris Atwater says Pats, but then he says E, and I didn't know what you meant by that, Chris. So follow up, please. But they are
the Patriots are playing tonight against the
Jets.
The Jets.
And we do think it's going to be a slop fest. That's our prediction.
It's going to be a slow moving game, low scoring, 16-10 type situation.
All right. Jordan Stenmark says, "Yo, start Derrick Henry or Jerome Ford." I'm Derrick Henry all the way on that. Yeah. What about you?
I'm not even mentioning it because you already said it, and it's like obvious. I mean, who would start Jerome Ford over Derrick Henry?
All right, be nice to our viewers. Now, listen, sometimes people play the matchups. Maybe Derrick Henry's dinged up. Maybe they think he's gonna, running off a cliff at this point. There are reasons to potentially think that. However,
I think Derrick Henry, as I said, beginning of the season, is going to have a huge year. He'll be contending to lead the league.
I think with the volume Derrick Henry's getting in an offense like the Ravens, you got to go that. Although I will say, I was shocked to see the Ravens lose.
Well, I think everybody was. Everybody had the Ravens beating the Raiders. I mean, it was like the survivor pools. Everybody picked them except me.
I'm out in the survivor pool already.
Yeah, so is 68% of the people in the country. So don't feel bad.
Right. Yep. All right, Aiden, good to have you here.
Yeah.
Hey guys, wondering if I could get some help. I'm in a two flex 10-team league. I have Ramondre, Kyren, Jordan Mason, Barkley, and Gibbs. That's some good running backs. Of course, it is a 10-team league, so it makes sense. I only have Ayuk and Devontae Smith as my wide receiver. Who do I bench? So the first thing I would say is I would trade. First, try to find a trade because you do need a wide receiver, and that would be great to get one.
Who do I bench? Okay, so
now who do you bench out of the running backs? I would not bench Barkley or Gibbs for sure.
No, I would bench Kyren just because the Rams are going to be trying to run the ball, but they're not successful. They have their offensive line is hurt, and their wide receivers are hurt, and they'll be forced to pass the ball. They'll be putting 9 people in that box. And Kyren is not the same player he was last year just because his offensive line isn't there. I mean, Gibbs is a beast. Barkley could be one of the best fantasy players so far this year. And Jordan Mason, he's running that whole San Francisco offense. I wouldn't bench him either. So Kyren, to me, is the one. And Ramon, how do you say his name?
Ramondre.
Ramondre, to me, will get 25 handoffs tonight for the Patriots. He'll get a touchdown in like 70 yards.
So if it's a 2-flex league, it looks like he would play 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and so he just needs to bench one of those running backs.
Right. So I said Kyren. Who do you say?
I mean, how did Ramondre do last week?
He had like 25. I mean, he gets the ball. I mean, that's all they do is hand the ball off. I mean,
I know he was good in the first week.
All they do is run the ball in New England. That's all they do. The passing game is a joke. It's Hunter Henry or bust. And
I'm with you. I mean, it shows you how things shuffle around so much in the league.
Yeah, I'm worried about the Rams' offensive line. I'm worried about Stafford. I'm worried about a lot of things here in LA because their offensive line is beaten up, and he's not going to have time to throw the ball.
Okay, now speaking of trades, do I trade Barkley for Jefferson?
Do I trade? This depends who your other running backs are. I don't think that's an uneven trade, but if you don't have anybody,
this is the same guy. This is the same guy. Ramondre, Kyren, Jordan Mason, Barkley, and Gibbs. I mean, I don't see it as a bad deal, and you need wide receiver depth. So I'd probably pull the trigger.
Yeah. See, with Barkley's he's playing so well for the Eagles. I'm not an Eagle guy. I was happy when they lost last week. Trust me, I was cheering on the Falcons. Plus, I had the Falcons on money line, so I was happy more.
Who do you think as a wide receiver you could get for Kyren?
Somebody that's like if I would try to get Jamar Chase. I would try to get Jamar Chase for Kyren. I'm sure the people that own Chase are just upset, and Chase doesn't shut his mouth. And who knows when he's going to be benched because of his mouth? But I don't think he will. But I
too much talent for that.
Kyren, it's just I've watched these Rams game. He's not getting these big games, these big gains. I mean,
okay, just keep in mind things can shift a lot in 1 week.
But their line is not good. The Rams line is beaten up and they're hurt. It's not the same team. Listen to me.
I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with your take, but I just think you got to be a little careful because this guy was a beast last year.
I loved him.
But that's why if you can trade him for a guy like Jamar Chase, I think of course you do that. But at the same time,
I probably would wait till Kyren had a huge game, then I would trade him.
I think I'd probably do that too. I don't think you need to be desperate to do this. You should always be able to get somebody like Jefferson for Barkley in this kind of league. All right. Z Smitty says, I can't do that because I started 0-2. Okay, so he's talking about Jordan Love. My bench is Kareem Hunt, Amari Cooper, Terry, Pierce, Brian Thomas, Xavier Worry. I can't justify dropping any of them right now.
First of all,
I would drop Kareem Hunt.
I would drop Pierce. I mean, Pierce had 2 big catches for bombs the first week. I mean,
which Pierce is he talking about?
I think the Pierce for the Colts, right?
I don't know. He could be talking about the running back for the Texans.
Oh, he's hurt too. So, I mean, I would drop his ass.
Drop either one?
Both Pierces I would get rid of. There's no reason to have both of them.
I mean, what about Kareem Hunt? What are you thinking, Ross?
He's back at where he started. He's back in Kansas City. He's on the practice squad. They signed him. I mean,
so he's going to have a role. But I think either Pierce you can probably go with.
I would get rid of Pierce. I believe it's Terry McLaurin, right, for the Commanders.
Scary correct? Terry, yep.
I'm not high on him. The first 2 games, he's done nothing. You can drop him too. I would know. I don't think anybody in their right mind would pick him up. Brian Thomas, you keep. Worthy, you keep. But Pierce or Terry are your 2 drops. Keep Hunt just in case if he becomes the starting running back for some reason, if something happens to Steele.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you, Ross. But at the same time, I don't know. Kareem Hunt, there was a reason he was out there, and yet he's a touchdown machine. So I think he could have a lot of value. I think Pierce is probably the way to go.
Yeah.
All right. Also, Smitty drop Pierce. Okay, so we had agreement on that.
Yeah.
All right. Jordan Stenmark says Niners are on top. It's 62% Niner fans.
In LA, I agree. I just went to SoFi last week. Didn't go to a football game. I went to a concert, and I hate that stadium. Just so you know, it's the worst run stadium in the country. Has to be. The food's horrible. There's ramps you got to go up, and to get down to the field, you got to go down 6 levels, and then after the game, you got to walk up 6 levels and ramps. It takes like 20 minutes. It's horrible. Horrible place.
And this is Ross's rant.
Horrible. No air conditioning either. Horrible place to watch a game. Unless you're VIP like Ross the Bosses, I would not go to the game. I'd rather watch it at home or watch it at a sports bar. There you go.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Okay, Jordan Senmark says Derek is playing Dallas and Jerome is playing the Giants. So that was part of his question. I still think you got to go Derek on that. Jerome Ford, he's not even getting all the carries necessarily, at least based on the way last week went. And game flow also could take Jerome Ford out of the game.
I gave up 40 points to the Saints.
Listen, 1 week can get away, but the key to me is that Derrick Henry is basically you just always play him. And Jerome Ford, what did he get? 7 carries last week. Game flow can go away from him. I like Jerome Ford, and I love the matchup.
I like too. University of Cincinnati guy.
But but the Browns should put the Giants away fast, which they won't.
If you have Derrick Henry, you start him every week. I don't care what the matchup is.
I agree.
You're playing the 75 Steelers. It doesn't matter. You start Derrick Henry.
The Iron Curtain. All right. Trade MHJ and Devontae for Kupp and AJ Brown. I'm 2-0.
Okay, so you're
Kupp and AJ Brown are both hurt.
You got two guys. So who's MHJ? Remind our viewers.
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Marvin Harrison Jr. and Devontae Adams.
Adams.
Yeah. For Kupp and AJ Brown. I rather have Harrison and
I keep Harrison and Adams for now.
Kupp's out for 4 weeks, and AJ Brown, and it's a quadricep. I don't know how long he's out. I mean, he's out for this week for sure.
Listen, if you're 2-0 right now, I say keep riding what you got. Don't. You could make that deal maybe in 2 weeks.
I never trade for guys that are hurt. I never.
I don't like that either because you never know if they're going to come back.
Yeah, I mean, Kupp is hurt. Like, it's not like a minor injury; it's a major situation.
Yep.
So
I think you definitely keep Marvin Harrison Jr.
You keep it. But 2 weeks down the line, if Kupp's back and AJ's back, then you talk about it.
Yep. Okay, Z-Smitty says, if Alec Pierce has one more good week, he could be a great trade guy. I could flip him for something very nice. I did the same thing with Dobbins. Just flipped Dobbins and Neighbors for Bijan. Great job. Now, listen, I've gone on record as saying I think Dobbins is actually, not only is he for real, but I have a feeling he's going to be able to make it through this year finally.
I hope you're right.
It would be a great thing to see for him. You know, it's been really rough watching such a talent as him not be able to make it through even a small part of the season.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you can flip Dobbins and Neighbors for Bijan, great trade. I think that's fantastic.
The Neighbors, of course, over 100 yards and a touchdown last week for the New York Giants.
Neighbors definitely looks good. You know, you are giving up value, but you're getting the best player.
Probably the worst quarterback in the league. Sorry, Casey Scheinfeld, is Daniel Jones. He's worse than Dalton. I mean, I'd rather have Dalton starting than who's Dalton's the starter.
That's saying something.
Now. It is. And
what about on a Sunday night?
You got me.
I got you.
Remember that time I had you fly to Vegas and you mortgaged your house and brought all that money to Vegas and you bet against Dalton and you won all that money you won? That was great.
That would have been awesome. But we hallucinated it, unfortunately.
That's true.
I wish we had done that. All right. Z Smitty said, I made this mistake last year not picking up Adam Thielen because he's not a flashy name and he turned out being a top wide receiver for a while. Listen, go with your gut. All right. So he's saying similar thing going on right now with Pierce. I've always been high on Pierce. If he's breaking out, I would love to see.
Okay. Let me just explain something to you real quick. First of all, Pittman's having a horrible year. He's going to pick it up. He's going to get better. This other receiver named Downs is back this week. He has not played the first 2 weeks. So you got Downs and Pittman to worry about as receivers in the Colts. And Richardson, to me, he hasn't proven to me he's like a great throwing quarterback. I mean, he misses targets like crazy. I mean, I know he had.
And if he gets injured, then who's throwing to him? Then it's Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco.
And he actually put up some decent numbers last year. So,
but as Downs is coming back, Pittman is going to have to get the ball. I mean,
let's also just return to this. He said he made this mistake last year, not picking up Thielen because he wasn't flashy, but Thielen had also done it many, many years. You know, we weren't expecting him to do it again in Carolina, but he had done it for many years. So it feels a little different. I understand what you're saying, Smitty, but as I said, the worst thing you can do is not follow your own gut. If you really feel that,
if you
stick with him.
Do it. I mean, again, I don't trust Richardson at all.
Yep.
And I mentioned that they have other receivers that have not performed yet, so you've got to worry about that.
All right, Z Smitty says, cannot trade Barkley right now. You're better off getting a wide receiver that's a tier below for cheaper. I agree with that. I think that's why we were looking at Kyron and seeing if you could get something out of that. But I would trade one of the lesser running backs. The other thing is the trade that was mentioned was Barkley for Jefferson, and Jefferson's value is down from where it was. So it's not a terrible trade, but I would not trade Barkley right now.
Yeah.
All right. Steve 562 says, with Tua out, what a terrible story that is. Richardson starting. Should I?
Tua's coming back in 4 weeks, though. That's what he's going to come back. He's back in a little bit. He'll be back.
I worry about this guy.
You're a doctor too. Let me just tell the audience. You're a doctor. You graduated for your doc. You got your doctorate degree. You're a legit doctor. You write books, so know the subject.
Hold yours.
Subject very well. So why don't you give your analysis on Tua?
I appreciate the endorsement, but the first thing I'm going to need to say is I'm not a medical doctor. I am a psychologist. However,
I know, but I'm
a mind-body doctor.
Why would you want to come back as a professional athlete after you have millions
of dollars
in the bank?
If I'm anyone who cares about Tua, I would tell him to retire. Seriously.
I mean, he has more money than he'll ever spend. He could build his own island in Hawaii.
You can't risk your health. I think he needs to retire. Unfortunately, I have him on a dynasty team. He's going to have no value whatsoever. But I'd rather he be safe and healthy. So with Tua out, Richardson starting, should I drop / pick up either Williams?
Yep.
Not
Darnold, Williams. Don't pick up Williams. No touchdowns.
Not Caleb.
You
Okay, Darnold, Minshew, Jones, or Levis. Let's see.
Okay, no Jones and no Levis. So it's between Darnold and Minshew. Do you agree, Dr. Dan Ratner?
Yeah. Actually, I do. What are the matchups again?
I'm looking right now at the matchups. I was looking at other things, but let me just look at the matchups real quick, and I'll tell you who should start, and you can disagree or agree. So Caleb Williams is playing Indianapolis. I hate that. So Sam Darnold is playing Houston in Minnesota. I kind of like that as a high-scoring game. What do you think?
I mean, I agree with you on that, but let's make sure we're getting the question right, because what he's asking is, with Tua out, should I drop Tua? Should I drop him and pick up these guys? Richardson's his starter. So is it worth picking up these guys? I would actually probably just hold on to Tua.
I would hold on to him. I mean, if you're only looking at head, if you had a gun in my head and you wanted to drop Tua, let's say, I would pick up Minshew. I just like Minshew. I just think the guy does anything he has to do to win, and the Raiders look good.
Yeah. It's tough. This list.
The Raiders are playing Carolina this week.
But listen, if these guys are out there on the wire anyway, I think you wait out Tua for now.
I do too. I think
I think Tua should retire.
I think you should just start Richardson if you're fine with that. That's fine.
Yep. All right. Chris Atwater says 2 of 3 with Pitts, Ridley, and McLaurin. We know what you think about McLaurin already.
Can you pick up anybody in the waiver wire? Pitts is the Pitts.
We thought he was going to really break out, but it's just not happening.
Talking about being the most overrated tight end ever drafted in fantasy football history. Welcome to Pitts. I mean, Kyle Pitts is the guy.
It's really rough.
I haven't heard his name announced once in any of these in any of the games. Is he catching the ball? I don't know what he's doing. And Terry Scary McLaurin is the bust. I'm sorry to say. I'm already calling the bust on him.
I think there's still hope for him. I would start Ridley and McLaurin.
Yeah,
to me, Ridley is the clear one.
If you had to put, if I was forced, I would start those two.
But Chris, do a follow up. Let us know who's on the wire. Maybe there's somebody good for you.
Maybe it's our fantasy.
Maybe it is in our league.
And there's no one on the wire. So
all right. Jacob Anders says Etienne or Stevenson tonight. PPR.
Ooh, Stevenson for sure. He'll be catching the ball. He'll be running the ball. He'll be Mr. Offense for New England. Etienne's the nothing. I mean, it's been another guy who's been invisible.
Yeah, it's been pretty weird. He's not done much at all.
Like Mr. Invisible, Stevenson for sure.
I mean, he has had 2 touchdowns. It hasn't been horrible.
Okay, well, I know, but it just
Stevenson
to me the Jets defense is overrated. I mean, the Jets.
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go the other way.
Is that great? But I'm
going to go the other way. I still don't trust Stevenson. I could be wrong about this, but I think Etienne actually has the safer floor in a lot of ways. And
who's Jacksonville play?
Jacksonville's
playing at Buffalo. You still like that? Buffalo's defense looks really good.
They do. I still think Etienne's going to be fine. I still think Etienne's going to be fine. Let's see. Next week we'll see who made the right call.
Okay.
All right. So Z Smitty did clarify. Yes, it's the Colts Pierce. Covered that. Let's see. Yeah. Hunter 18 says start Carr or Richardson.
Ooh. So Carr.
That's tough.
Carr is at home against Philly, and I'm not impressed with the Eagles. I mean, I'm really not. I was, I thought with the new offensive coordinator and Barkley and everything else, I thought they'd be.
Barkley looks good, but the Eagles as a whole do not.
I mean, AJ Brown does not come back this week, correct? He's sitting.
As far as I know, yes.
He's not playing. I would ride the wave on Carr. That's me. Let's ride the wave.
And I would start Richardson. The upside is just massive. So I think you got to go.
With me, you just if a guy's playing great and there's over 40 points a game, New Orleans Saints, and they're throwing the ball and Kamara's running the ball and they're looking good.
It all looks good, but how are you going to feel if you start Carr over Richardson and you lose 30 points, which could easily happen? I think you go with the big upside play all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, Richardson hasn't been bad in terms of his points at all. So I think the upside is so enormous with Richardson. I would go that direction. Caleb Norris says, which 3 receivers do I play out of Neighbors, Devontae Adams, Godwin, or Collins? Okay, well, Collins to me is the automatic one.
Okay, Dan loves Nico Collins, and Dan loves the Houston offense.
That's true. I'm slowly a Texans fan.
He's going to start wearing a cowboy hat and cowboy boots on these broadcasts. That's how much he loves the Texans. He loves the Texans.
They could be my new team.
So Neighbors, he's the number 1 receiver. You got to start him. Adams, top 5.
I think you got to sit Godwin.
I mean,
it's not easy.
I love Tampa Bay. I love them this year, and I love how let's love the whole thing with
the Baker story is great.
Yeah, it's all good. So yeah, you're right. You don't start Godwin.
It's hard to do because he's playing really well, but with the receivers you have, you're just gonna have to sit Godwin. That's how I see it. All right, Steve 562 says start 3: Pittman, JSN, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. JMO. That is Jameson Williams, I assume.
Jim. Okay.
From Detroit. Worthy, Waddle, and Brown is out. Okay, so Waddle's an automatic start.
You got to start 3.
Oh, actually, is Waddle an automatic start with 2 out? I think he still is.
Waddle's back. I would start Waddle for sure. Worthy.
I think you go Waddle, Pittman, and Worthy.
Yep, I agree.
You agree?
I would bench James Nigga for the Seahawks. Yes.
Yep. Okay. J2 Nice says Stevenson or Pollard this week. Who do the Titans play?
Titans play. Let me look. The Titans play.
While you're looking for that, I'm going to pull up the next question. Jay, we'll get right back to you. Jacob Andrews says Pierce is going to drop off when Josh Downs gets back.
Titans play Green Bay. Yeah, the Titans play Green Bay.
Green Bay. I think you go Stevenson there.
I love Stevenson tonight. The game's tonight. I love watching games that it's the only game on. I love having that. I love watching with the national.
All the attention right there.
And again, I think the Jets defense is not as great as people think. So there you go.
All right, I agree. I think it's got to be Stevenson. I mean, Pollard is still potentially sharing the ball some. Pierce is going to drop off when Josh Downs gets back this week. Just what Ross said.
I said that earlier. Yep.
Well said, Jacob. I think that's probably true. But again, if your gut is there, follow your gut.
Remember, Pierce caught 2 bombs. I mean,
right. You gotta think of how many targets he has. But he has shown back-to-back nice performances.
Does not hit that many targets. What's his completion percentage? I'd love to hear that.
Sorry, who? Pierce?
Richardson.
Oh, Richardson. Well, this is interesting. Z Smitty said you're talking about A-Rich being a bad thrower, but Thielen was productive with Bryce Young. Well,
how about that? Bryce Young. You know what Bryce Young's doing now? The number 1 pick in football last year. You know what his job is on Carolina? He's running the scouting team's offense.
I was gonna say, isn't he holding a clipboard?
He's doing this scouting team's offense in practice this week. That's what they're paying him all that money for.
How far the mighty have fallen.
Yeah. And your guy Andy Dalton is going to be the hot new quarterback in Carolina. The good thing about Carolina, they have 0 games at night. So there you go.
Maybe he'll be okay.
He'll be okay. Just Dalton can't play at night.
All right. Meanwhile, check out what Anthony Richardson's completion percentage actually is. You were wondering that. Okay, so Z Smitty said, obviously Thielen is a vet, but I think that's a really important point. Thielen being a vet and having done it before, those guys are always underestimated. They've figured out how to play the game. So I think you always want to look out for that. Okay, Jonathan Santiago says, start Ayuk or Devontae Smith in the flex full PPR. Wow, that's a tough call. What are the matchups again?
So A.J. Brown is not playing. Devontae Smith is their main guy. They're playing Carolina.
You got to go
playing New Orleans. Excuse me. They're playing New Orleans in New Orleans. The Eagles are, and the Rams are playing the Niners. So the Rams defense, versus the Saints defense. I would start Devontae just because A.J. Brown's not playing. There you go.
I agree. I think it's a volume thing. I mean, they're obviously two great receivers, but Devontae Smith is
even though Ayuk went to a great school, who's 3-0 right now in football, Arizona State.
I was going to say Arizona, but that's okay.
Devontae Smith went to the Crimson Tide and won the Heisman Trophy. I would take Devontae Smith.
Yep, I agree. Okay, Jamal, our friend, we've enjoyed your comments, Jamal. Let's see. He says, what do you guys think of Leggett with Red Rocket starting? What do you think?
So let me just, you got to tell the audience who the Red Rocket is.
Red Rocket is Andy Dalton.
Okay, and Leggett is the receiver that plays for Carolina, who's like third receiver.
So what it tells us is Jamal's digging deep. He's
you're
in a 12-team league.
16 teams. Or
12-team with deep benches.
Andy Dalton, the thing about him is this. He'll start this game and he could easily have over 300 yards. In all seriousness, I'm not joking around.
Yeah, but how much will Leggett get of that?
That's the thing. I don't know.
I mean, I don't love a third receiver on the Carolina Panthers. I got to say that, which I'm sure Jamal doesn't either. But he's looking for something deep.
The thing about this is this, and this is the truth about Carolina, that they'll be losing, so they'll be passing the ball a lot. Chuba Hubbard is not going to get that many handoffs. He'll get 7.
Yeah, they're going to throw the ball a lot.
And the Red Rocket, as much as I make fun of him, he can still swing it. He can still throw the ball. He has a great, unbelievable arm, and he's
had a really interesting career. It's amazing how he's held on all this time.
Yeah, and if you look at his stats, I mean, he'll have some big games. Even though I know he's like 100 years old, and I get it, but I don't know if you're forced to start those two guys, do it.
And here's the other thing: if you're forced to start those two guys, I actually like having the stack. At least it's a funny stack, but it's like,
How about this prediction? I'll say that Dalton will be in the top 15 quarterbacks this week. How about that? Top 15.
I think that's actually a totally good call. I'm not super optimistic on Leggett, but
Leggett. I
would love to be wrong.
I have no idea.
All right.
I don't think it's a good start, but if you're forced to do it.
Z. Smitty's still thinking about Pierce. He said he caught 2 bombs, but he had 7 targets last week. The targets are much more encouraging than when he had 3 catches with 3 targets. Again, my main piece of advice, Smitty, is trust your gut. If you feel this strongly about it, you should not drop him. You stick with him.
Nope.
Okay. Sergio says flex who? Scary Terry.
Okay, so Scary Terry is do not start list for me. So just so everybody knows. So if you bring up Scary Terry, I'm going to tell you not to start her.
Chase Brown. Trey Benson,
Braylon
Allen, Bucky Irving, Ezekiel Elliott, or wide receiver Naylor. Let's see.
You know, I would start, and he's playing tonight. Is Allen? He's been getting a lot of the handoffs. He gets thrown the ball a lot, and he scored a touchdown last week. I would start Allen.
Okay, and I would start.
The primetime game, and
I think I would start Bucky Irving. I think Rachaad White is dinged up. Irving's going to get some carries. It's tough though. This is a tough decision.
I mean, Benson has not been playing much. Not many hands. Chase Brown's been a huge disappointment for the Bengals this year.
Well, and some of it's just Zach Moss.
Yeah, and Terry McLaurin is been invisible. So, and Zeke Elliott, I don't trust. So there you go.
All right. So Sergio was saying Terry plays the Bengals. Then he asked
Monday night. We know that.
Carr or Lamar. I'm all over Lamar myself. I understand Carr's been great, but you got to play your best player as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. Ross, do you agree?
100%.
Okay. Jonathan Santiago, need a flex play between Dobbins, Jackson Smith, Najigma, or McBride. Full PPR, 1 point for first downs.
I know you love. Who loves McBride? You or Casey? One of you guys.
We both love. But I'm the one.
You guys are in love with him. It's like too much.
It's not that much.
So Dobbins, so play between. So you love Dobbins, right?
Yeah, I would play Dobbins.
Yeah, Dobbins. Yeah, I agree.
I think the way Dobbins is playing, he looks like a monster.
Yeah, and they're playing at home against Carolina, correct? Is that no? The Chargers are at Pittsburgh. That's correct.
At Pittsburgh, but still, I still like Dobbins in that situation.
Yeah, me too.
Sergio says Derek Carr versus Philly, a good matchup. I totally get why you'd be asking, but I just not going to sit Lamar. I'm never going to let myself.
Lamar's ceiling is just the
too
rushing
high
alone. I mean, all that guy does is want to win. I mean, he's running around like a madman. I mean, he doesn't.
It's nothing against Derek Carr. It's just Lamar's that good.
Yeah, I mean, he has a whole nother layer to him with the rushing.
There's also like you got to decide what are the ways I'm comfortable losing. I'm not comfortable losing sitting Lamar and playing Derek Carr.
No, you'll be kicking yourself.
It's too
Lamar
hard.
has 100 yards rushing and 200 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. You'll be like, suicide watch. So I don't know what to do.
All right, Sergio says I think Olave has a solid game. Easily could happen.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they also have 2 other guys that can have big games, so we'll see what happens.
All right, Chris Atwater has brought us into the Champions League. He's a soccer fan. Every once in a while, he brings these things up. Monaco up 2-1 versus Barcelona in Champions League. Or is it Barcelona? No, I never say it that way. I can't bring myself to do it. Only as a joke. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying yourself, Chris. Keep us posted on that. Okay, Jamal says, I'm in a 14-team league. It certainly sounded like it. LOL. Leggett, Braylon Allen, Ray Davis, Jalen Wright on my bench. That's actually some good bench targets that you got.
Yeah, I like Braylon Allen tonight. I mean, I have him scoring a touchdown. I really think he'll get some handoffs.
Also, now listen, I could be wrong about this, as we are often wrong about so many of these things, but Jalen Wright I've been high on the whole year because he's got Mostert ahead of him, and even Achane, as great as he is, he has been injury prone. And, I don't know if he's got the frame to hold up. So I like having Jalen Wright on a bench in a 14-team league. These are great picks for your 14.
Ray Davis too.
What's that?
Yeah, I like Ray Davis too. I think that's good also.
I agree. Excellent bench. Okay, the real Tommy V says 6 watching and only 2 thumbs up. Come on, peeps. Yeah. Well, is that come on, peeps us or come on, peeps them? We're watching. We're here. We're here to give you all the information you need. So Ross, let's before we go today, let's talk about some performances that you do believe in or don't believe in from this past week.
The past week or the week coming? Okay, so the past.
Let's do the past week. Yeah. So like, Chris Godwin. I mean, is he going to keep this up?
As you know, I love Mayfield. I mean, I love the Tampa Bay team.
And it seems Godwin. Like he's got Godwin's found a rhythm with him. Yeah.
I still like Evans over Godwin, but I think Godwin will still have a good year. I don't think he'll do what he did last week. Not that, but I think Godwin's legit. I do. I'd rather have Evans, but Godwin's good too. And I mean, do you think the Cleveland Browns are just kicking themselves like every day, getting rid of Mayfield? Or
they should be. I mean, I thought it was a mistake the whole time, but it's not just that. Obviously, it's the whole context of bringing in Deshaun Watson, the negative press from it. It's been a disaster.
All the massages he gets. I understand.
It's been a disaster. Okay. Bronson House says, got offered Devontae Adams and Rachaad White for Carr, Jordan Mason, and Waddle. Or Amon-Ra and Swift for Carr, Jordan Mason, and Waddle. Which should I take? Okay, got offered Devontae Adams and Rachaad White for. Okay, so you're the side that would be dealing Carr, Mason, and Waddle. Amon-Ra and Swift for them. Wow. Listen, it depends on the context of your league. I don't know like how deep your league is. I don't know what the benches are like. So we might need to know those things. But if I had to just evaluate it in a vacuum, I don't think that I would trade for Devontae Adams and Rachaad White for those 3. I don't see the
but Jordan Mason, his value
is going to go way down.
His value in 2 weeks is going to be almost 0. In all seriousness.
Yeah. So you know what? Actually, that does make sense. I think you can go for either one.
And Carr has reached his ceiling.
But of the 2, to me, it would be Devontae Adams and Rachaad White because you're getting 2. You know what I think of DeAndre Swift.
That's a trigger, guys. Don't mention his name.
Don't mention it. Okay. Bronson says it's a 10-team league, 2 quarterbacks and 3 flex.
Super flex.
Okay. So now it depends on what quarterbacks you have and who's available. This is a super flex league.
So Mason,
I agree cashing in on. The question is, do you want to move on from Carr for these upgrades?
Yeah, I get it. I don't know who the other quarterbacks are.
Depends on who the quarterbacks are.
Yeah. I think if you have 2 quarterbacks that you're starting that are better than Carr, yes. If you have Daniel Jones, no. So
right.
It just let us know who your Superflex quarterbacks are.
Okay, here it is.
We got big Major League news. Ohtani just stole his 50th base, so he'll be the 50-50 guy in base. I know we're talking football, but that's like it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
That's never happened, has it? I don't think that's ever happened.
No.
50-50. Okay, other QBs are Mahomes and
I don't
Geno.
think at 50 stolen bases. Okay, what now?
Other QBs are Mahomes, Geno, and Tua, but he's on IR.
Yeah, so now you're stuck with Geno and Mahomes, and you have no backup.
I'd rather deal Geno than Carr and get a smaller upgrade, honestly.
Yeah, just
Bronson says he picked Carr off waivers. That was smart.
Oh, okay.
But I would probably try to have Geno be the one that gets you, even if it's a smaller upgrade. I think that's fine. If you go from, let's say, Waddle to Amon-Ra, I would definitely do that.
Yeah, I would too.
You know,
it's a good time to trade for him now too, because his value's down. He'll pick it up.
All right, now before we wrap up, let's answer our cover story. Are you going to sell high on Alvin Kamara here?
You know, when somebody hits a grand slam with 4 touchdowns in one game, and I don't think his ceiling's going to get any higher. It can't.
I mean, you can get the maximum value for him now.
If I can trade and get some high ceiling quarterback, but receiver or running back, definitely deal it. I would definitely get rid of Kamara this week if I can, because
his value is just so high,
and people can't laugh at the offer. If you offer, let's say, let's say you offer Jamar Chase for Kamara, people might consider that.
Yeah, it's amazing what a difference 2 weeks.
I don't know if I would do that though. I probably would go after. I would try to go after some of the other guys that aren't performing that great, but that's me.
All right, Bronson says he said no to Geno. Well, at least you tried it. We know you're on the right track. All right, Ross, this is a great show. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Fantastic questions. Keep them coming. Next week, Ross, are we here for Waiver Wire on Tuesday?
Sure, I'll do Waiver Wire.
You are the man.
I'm excited for Waiver Wire because the reason I'm doing it again by myself is unless Dan decides to come in, he gets nervous around Waiver Wire stuff. But I mean, it's so important that you pick up players in the first 5 weeks of fantasy football.
It's a big time. So we want to be there for you. So Ross, we appreciate you doing that.
There's going to be injuries. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on. There's going to be a lot of crazy stuff going on in football this weekend. So just be prepared.
I will try to pop in. Casey, unfortunately, is going to be out for a couple of weeks. So we'll only have Tuesday next week, but that's 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. We're going to miss Thursday. Then the next week, I'm back with Ross on Thursdays. Yep. Waiver Wire will go on Tuesdays. It's been a pleasure talking with you, Ross. Great job to our fans. Thank you for watching. All right, Ross. Great job.
Go Jets.
All right.